Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another edition to the Point Podcast. Hope everybody's doing well on this Saturday. And today we're going to be bouncing around. We're going to talk some hockey. We're going to talk some golf. Really interesting, kind of a moving day-esque yesterday at the U.S. Open. And, my guest today, Matt Wright, we got to talk football. It's mid-June, but who doesn't want to talk football, any time of the year? And I know he will. But Writer, I know yesterday it was the 15th annual Champions Hockey Charity Golf Tournament. How did that go, and how did you shoot?
Yeah, so it was a great day. It's our 15th anniversary for Champions, so we wanted to do something to kind of celebrate 15 years of Champions hockey, and we decided to do a charity golf fundraiser, and we partnered with the local minor hockey associations, FYHA, Oromocto Minor Hockey, Tri-County Minor Hockey, and Stanley Minor Hockey. And the sole purpose is to raise as much money as possible to give back to these associations to supply gear for players who can't afford to play.
Nice.
So kind of a great initiative. We raised a lot of money yesterday. We're still working on calculating all the basically exactly how much money we raised. Our goal is $10,000, and I think we're going to hit that goal. So it was a great day. Unfortunately, I wasn't swinging them yesterday. I was kind of marshaling. Probably a good thing. The way my golf game's going lately is probably a good thing I didn't touch the course. Probably would have lost money the way I was playing. But no, it was a great day. Everyone had a lot of fun, a lot of positive feedback. It was pretty sunny out there, got a little sunburn, but other than that, it was a great day. And I honestly just thanks to everyone who came out and participated in the event. And we also have a virtual auction going on right now that on our Champions Facebook page, which goes till Wednesday. And that's also to help raise money for the Minor Hockey Association. So if you have a minute to check that out, go to our Champions Hockey Facebook page. We have a lot of great prizes and packages put together on there. So thanks for letting me talk about that, Jug, and looking forward to getting in to talk some sports. There's been a lot happening the last couple of weeks in the sporting world, and looking forward to talking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I saw that the golf tournament, and it looked like a good time on your IG post last night. So it's only fitting that we bring it up here today. But last night, hockey game. I was going to start with golf, but last night's game just threw me for a loop. I was about ready to go to bed at about 11:45, and then Marc-Andre Fleury kind of went Marc-Andre Fleury at the World Juniors back in the day, where he has the puck behind the net and tons of time, but he gets it caught in his feet. And then Josh Anderson ends up putting in an empty netter. And then we'll get into what happened in overtime. But in real time, what was your reaction seeing Montreal score when Vegas had complete control of the game?
Well, that's the other thing too. I was kind of planning on ready to call it a night myself. It just Vegas kind of dominated the whole game. Montreal really only played about 20 minutes that whole game. Vegas kind of basically dominated. Carey Price obviously was the MVP of that game, but it was just such a weird play. And yeah, it kind of made me think back to the World Juniors where, yeah, he is supposed to come out of the net on that play, but he also has the defenseman coming back to get the puck too. If you watch the play, his D-man's coming around the net to get it. So it's kind of weird that he comes out to stop it, but it's just one of those plays. You say it happens in the game, but it's just such a bad time for that to happen, especially with everything, all the momentum Vegas had. Montreal really wasn't generating much offense there either. So for that play to happen, and of course it goes to Anderson, who has been a playoff beast all playoffs, especially that game. He was one of, honestly, Montreal's only players really making anything happen offensively. So for him to get that goal, huge goal for Montreal, really. I think that goal could be a series changer. It kind of gives Montreal hope because especially that game, Vegas was all over them. If Vegas pulls out the 2-1 win there, you basically, I'm saying Vegas in 5 after that 2-1 win. But now you could see a 7-game series, really. So it was a huge turning point and just pretty crazy to happen. You kind of have to feel bad for Marc-Andre Fleury there. Especially the way he's played this year. He's going to be beating himself up on that. I think Vegas will still go back to Fleury, but definitely a huge break for Montreal.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but I found in game 2 and 3, Fleury just looks weird. He doesn't look set in the net. Like there's times where pucks are coming from bad angles and they look like they might go in, and he doesn't look comfortable playing the puck. I think he should stay the hell in the net because there's other times during the game where he's trying to give the game away. But yeah, have you noticed anything. Fleury looks a bit just weird in the net. I find he looks just discombobulated a little bit.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed that too. I know some announcers have been talking about that a bit. It looks like he's, it's great for goalies to battle for pucks, but it kind of looks like he's over battling, which
Right.
sometimes that's not a good thing. It kind of seems like he's not finding himself in the net. And at this time of the season, every little mistake, those little mistakes add to big plays in games. And especially when you're, playing in front of a goalie, you want the goalie to feel comfortable in net. It's weird. Hopefully, he gets to work with the goalie coach here today, maybe go over a few things. But I think they stick with Fleury at this point because the one time Leonard came in, he didn't really have a great showing. But it's definitely something to worry about if you're a fan of the Golden Knights.
Yeah. And obviously we go into overtime. The aforementioned Josh Anderson makes a great play on the lob pass from Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and then Byron and him going in on a 2-0, and he pats in the empty netter to give Montreal a 2-1 series lead. But this has been Montreal all playoffs. They've been the underdog since game 1 against Toronto. They don't care. Last night, Dominic Ducharme tests positive for COVID. They win the game without him. The first 58 minutes of the game, it was like they're an AHL team. They weren't in the same league, but they find a way to win. And for Vegas, I look at Stone, I look at Pacioretty. They haven't been good enough. I mean, they got 8 goals in this series. 6 of them have been by defensemen, 3 by Alex Pietrangelo. For Stone, for Pacioretty, this series is on them now. You're down 2-1. You cannot lose on Sunday. You have to win that game, in my opinion, anyway. And I look at those 2 guys in particular that have to get going. They have 1 point combined in this series.
Yeah, it's a thing where when you get to playoff time, your best players have to be better than the other team's best players. And the other team's best player is Carey Price. Yeah. And Carey Price has been the best player in the series, hands down by far. He's really, carried Montreal, but Montreal's playing a system and they're sticking to that system. They're not getting away from it. And Montreal wants to win a 2-1 hockey game, a 3-2 hockey game. They're not trying to win 6-5. So if Montreal gets 2 goals, they think they can win any game, which, I mean, it's showing that they can. But yes, it comes to Vegas where your top players have to find a way to put the puck in the net and generate more offense. As you said, 6 out of the 8 goals from the back end, that's something you're happy about, 6 goals from the back end, but only 2 from your forwards. That's not a recipe for success. So they have to find a way to generate more offense. I don't know whether it's get more traffic, but they're getting lots of shots. Like they're outplaying Montreal, but they have to find a way to put the puck in the back of the net. It's going to be a couple greasy goals up front, but they definitely have to win the next game, especially with the way Price is playing. Montreal's doing such a great job of clogging up the neutral zone, especially in that overtime goal last night. You see Petrie, who's been an unsung hero all year for Montreal. He does a beautiful job holding the line, and Pietrangelo is changing on that play because he thinks the puck's getting in deep. Petrie holds the line, quick play. Kotkaniemi grabs it, throws it up. Anderson makes a real nice play, but that whole play starts from Petrie holding the line there where the defense is going for the change. And that's one thing you always have to tell your forwards is the importance of getting pucks in deep. And you don't, pucks in deep is, Ken Reed says it all the time on Sportsnet, but pucks in deep is so critical because the defense are going for a change there. They think the puck's getting in deep. That D does a great job holding up the play. Now you have 2 D going for a change, 2 more coming off, and it's a breakaway the other way. So Montreal's doing a great job shutting it down. But yes, as you said, Vegas has to find a way to get their top dogs to put the puck in the back of the net, or this series could be a 5-game, 6-game series for Montreal. And I honestly, if you told me at the start of the playoffs you'd see Montreal in this position, I'd probably tell you to pound sand. But looking at it now, you gotta like the way they're playing hockey. They're playing playoff hockey, and it's the classic saying as defense wins championships. I'm not saying they're going to win the cup, but they're doing the right things. They're relying on their goaltender to make saves, and they're, getting timely scoring.
Yeah, I think their top 4 with Weber, Sherratt, Edmondson, and Petrie deserve so much credit. Like you said, the way they play the neutral zone, it's a clinic. I know you're a hockey coach. You guys run, different clinics and different programs. Like if you're a big defenseman, watch Shea Weber. The guy is not fleet of foot by any means, But if you can't get by him, well, what are you going to do? And he's turning back the clock in these playoffs for me. I mean, in the regular season, he's hurt a lot. He doesn't look like the same elite defenseman. And is he putting up a ton of points? No. But what's he doing? He's not allowing the other team to score. And as a defenseman, sometimes I think we're getting away from that, Writer. We look at every year the Norris Trophy. If you don't have 70 points, you can't get nominated for the award. A guy like Jacob Slavin will never be nominated for that award. Mm-hmm. But in this time of year, the Webbers, the Eric Chernaks in Tampa Bay, the Ryan Pulock, who I think's had a great playoff for Long Island, these guys, they make their money right now, and it could ultimately lead to a championship.
Yeah, it's one thing I try and tell younger players, coaching them, is they're asking, what can I do as a defenseman to get to the next level? And a lot of them are always so worried about points because that's all they see is the points. And it's tough to tell them that one of the best things you can do is don't be noticed in the game.
100%.
Don't be noticed. Don't make mistakes in your own end. Get the puck out. Make a quick first pass. If you're on the ice as a defenseman, the best stat you can have is plus minus. If you're never in your end, you make that quick first pass, you stop the other team from getting in your end. Yeah, you might not be noticed on the score sheet, but I guarantee there's hockey people in the stands who are going to notice that play. That's what I was telling my defenseman this year for U13 is just keep the puck out of your own end. Don't overcomplicate things. And that's what Montreal's defense are doing. And it's leading to a lot of success. And yeah, they're not getting a lot of shots on net, but they have enough offense where they can put 2 in the back of the net or 3 in the back of the net. They're not trying to score 6. Like you watch Montreal go out there. They're not on the board saying we got to get 5 or 6 tonight. They're saying let's get 3. And that's doable. They're probably not going to in this series. You're not going to see them pop off for 5 or 6 or 7. But if they get 3 every game, they're going to win themselves in a way to win the series. So
yeah, and like you said, they have enough offense, and I think Cole Caulfield, for his first playoff, the kid's been phenomenal. He's so creative. And another guy I want to talk with you about, Writer, is I think this guy can be the next Patrice Bergeron, and that's Nick Suzuki in Montreal. This guy, I'm not saying he'll be as good as Patrice Bergeron because Patrice Bergeron is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Just Selke, he's a Stanley Cup champion. Maybe Suzuki may win one this year. But he is so smart. He's not the biggest guy, but he's great at winning faceoffs. He just knows when to be in the right position. He brings an offensive flair. And I think in this playoffs, he's showing in and showing out so far.
Absolutely. I was fortunate enough to get to watch Suzuki at the Memorial Cup in Halifax a couple years ago. And there's only I've watched a lot of junior hockey. I know you have. I've watched, I played junior hockey. I watched a lot of junior hockey over the years. And there's a few players that you watch over the years and you say that player is ready to play in the NHL.
Right.
And one was Nick Ehlers on the Mooseheads. I watched him playing as he's NHL ready. Nathan McKinnon, another one. Yeah. Jonathan Huberdeau. But watching Nick Suzuki, because I didn't really know much about him going into the tournament. I just, got tickets. I was damn coaching spring hockey. And I watched Nick Suzuki play for one game. And he was by far the smartest, best player on the ice. One of the best players I've ever seen in junior hockey. Obviously I watched Crosby playing junior hockey, so there's no comparison there. But just watching him, I said he's ready to play in the NHL. And what he's doing on both ends of the game, being a 200-foot player at that age, it's so hard to be a 200-foot player at any age, let alone play in the NHL and be a 200-foot player. And to be noticed as so young, to be someone who's offensive and defensive, it's basically a coach's dream to be able to throw him on the ice. And yeah, you might not ever see him go and put up 80, 90 points, but he's going to be consistently probably putting up 60, 65 a year. And when you put him on the ice, they're not getting scored against. So when you have a guy who's going to shut it down and also give you offense, what more can you want?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And another thing you mentioned, like defensemen and being afraid not to score points. Just be good at that. Like be a 200-foot great centerman. And there's enough smart hockey people. There's some dumb ones out there, but just you're going to be noticed. Suzuki was picked by Vegas. He was their first pick. Montreal said, "You want Pacioretty? We want that kid." Like you said, he's one of the best junior kids. He can play right away. He did. And I love what he's doing, and I agree completely with your point. For his age, to buy in and to do it at this young of age, it usually takes guys till they're 25 to say, I'm going to be a great 200-foot centerman, and I'm going to get 65 points, and my ego will take a slight hit. But this kid, he just seems like he doesn't care. He wants to win more than he wants the personal accolades, which I can really appreciate.
Yeah, the one thing about being a 200-foot player is you're never going to be, you're going to be talked about, but you're never going to be the number one star as a 200-foot player. And that's
Right.
something you have to accept, is the fact that, you're sacrificing probably a little bit more offense, and he probably has a little bit more offense, but you're sacrificing that to play good in your own end.
100%.
And that's something, as a hockey person, you really respect, because you try to teach players to play a 200-foot game. And some players will never play a 200-foot game, whether they make the NHL or not. You see it there's players in the NHL that will never play a 200-foot game, and they'll put up some points. And there's players that will never play a 200-foot game, and they're out of the NHL in 2 years. And there's players that will never play a 200-foot game that will maybe get 40, 50 games as a first-round pick in the NHL. But if you're able to adapt your game and play a 200-foot game and do it as well as he has, you have to respect the hell out of it.
Yeah, and I know we both read Nick Kyprios's book, and he talks about how he was a star in junior, and he had to kind of pivot to be a fighter to stay in the league. And there's guys that don't. Back in the day, he had to fight. Say now, do you think now the new criteria is Wrighter is, okay, you were a star in junior, but everybody is coming into the NHL. If you're gonna stay here, you're gonna be sound defensively. You're gonna be a 200-foot player, and for the ones that pivot and do it, they'll last longer. Do you think that might be the new mold for these players that are kind of fringe, stay in the league players?
I think so. I mean, you're gonna have your Connor McDavid, your Austin Matthews, you're gonna have your generational players. You're gonna have some very, very elite scorers too on every team. You're gonna have guys who put the puck in the net. But for the most part, if you look at the third and fourth lines of the NHL, and most people don't realize this, the third and fourth lines of the NHL, a lot of them had 80, 90 points in junior every year.
Yeah.
A lot of them were coming out of midget, first or second overall picks to the O or to the dub or, to the Q. And just because you're an offensive player doesn't mean at one age, doesn't mean you're going to be an offensive player at the next level, because there's, other than maybe a Connor McDavid, there's always going to be someone better than you.
Right.
There's always going to be someone who's more offensive. So being able to change your game, I look at Ross Johnson. So I played with midget AAA against Ross Johnson. And I'll be completely honest. If you said, is Ross Johnson going to play in the NHL one day? You probably say not a chance. He's a good great midget player, big body, played hard, but he just was able to take his game and play his game all the way to the NHL. And now he's a stay-at-home, a sturdy, good forward playing for a team that's still playing in the National Hockey League with the Islanders. And he's playing a role, and he's been able to play that role through junior into, the minors and now into the NHL, which you have to respect the hell of that. You have to be able as a hockey player to change your game. And a lot of players are not able to change their game to fit what that organization is looking for. And if you're able to do that, if you're able to change your game and say, okay, maybe I was an offensive player last year, I got to do something a little different. If you're able to change your game, your longevity is going to go for a lot longer, and you're going to be able to play. And yeah, you may not be putting up 50 goals, but guess what? You may be playing in the NHL for 15 years instead of 2.
Right, exactly. And you're going to make a lot more money, and your family's going to be set up for a long period of time, and who knows, you might win a cup in there. Your first 2 years, you're unlikely to win one because you're going to be on a bad team most of the time, and you're going to be out of the league before anybody even knew your name. But you mentioned Ross Johnson. He plays for hasn't been playing in these playoffs, but his team is still playing the New York Islanders. Tonight, Game 4, Tampa Islanders at Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum, where they've lost 2 in a row, losing 2-1 on Thursday after really a defensive clinic by the Tampa Bay Lightning. Through 3 games of this series, what's the key for the Islanders to get back in the winning column tonight against the Lightning?
Find a way to score the first goal and potentially the second goal.
Right.
Tampa Bay can play any style of game.
Yeah.
And they are, you look at, they have Victor Hedman, who in my opinion is the best defenseman in the league. They have Vasilevsky, who's top 2-3 goalie in the league. Maybe the best goalie in the league other than Price right now, but over the last few years, he has been the best goalie in the league. You look at Braden Point. Braden Point is the definition of a hockey player. That might sound very stupid saying he's a hockey player. Of course, he's a hockey player, but Braden Point is a hockey player.
Yep.
You look at Kucherov, what he's doing coming back. He is a top 5 player in the league, maybe higher. In the plays he makes, their team is so deep. It's so fun to watch Tampa. And as the Islanders, it's basically just hold on, hope that your goaltending plays well. They play. You got to give Barry Trotz credit. He's been the MVP of the Islanders. He has that team completely bought in. The one thing about the Islanders is no one's trying to do something that they can't do. The second line isn't trying to get to the first line. The first line's playing their role. They're not trying to be, I have to be on the ice all the time. Their third line wants to be the third line. The fourth line wants to be the fourth line. Everyone knows their role and everyone's pulling the same rope. Unfortunately, I really just think Tampa is too good for them. But the Islanders have to find a way to stay out of the penalty box. Don't give Tampa power plays. Find a way to put the puck in the net in a greasy way, and find the way. If you do get a power play, you have to score.
You got to score.
You have to finish on the power play. You might only get 1 or 2 a game. If you get two power plays, you have to get 1 goal at least on the power play.
Yeah, I totally agree there. They gotta, especially the refs haven't been that great in this series. So take advantage of really the past couple of games. The referee, I think the officials have been terrible. But I look at Matt Barzal. I think he's still been pretty good in this series. He's dynamic, but he plays with Jordan Eberle and Uncle Leo Komarov. And I love Komarov, but the guy can't score a goal to save his life. I kind of think Barzal playing with a guy like Brock Nelson might be a good thing just to try it. And I get Barry Trotz is smarter than both of us when it comes to hockey intellect. We'd never get up to his level, but why not try it? And Beauvillier was great in the first 2 rounds, but he's been pretty quiet. Maybe throw Barzal for at least a shift or 2 out with Nelson and Bailey and see if you can create some offensive opportunities, with the different line mates for your best player.
Yeah. They are I definitely feel for Barzal in this scenario because Komarov's not going to put the puck in the net.
No.
Komarov's going to go in the corner and try and get the pucks. Barzal's been dynamic. Obviously, he hasn't been as good this series, but it's tough to be good it's tough to go out and put points up every night in the playoffs. I think Barzal's done what he needs to do, but I tailor this back to 1 year I was playing hockey and I was having a really good season. I was playing with a line mate who's playing in the A now. So and he was having a good season too. And the third guy in our line was struggling. And I remember going to the coach and saying, you need to switch things up. You need to give us some help out there. We feel like we're playing shorthanded. And he said, I can't do that. And here's why. If I switch and bring someone else from another line up to you guys, the rest of our team is going to suffer in the fact that there's not enough scoring around to bring up another top player. And I think that's where I see this going, is where if they bring Brock Nelson, I love Brock Nelson the way he's playing. But if you bring Brock Nelson up to that line, and then I think you lose your secondary scoring. I'm not saying they have much scoring to begin with, so maybe you do have to switch it up. But Brock Nelson can find a way to put the puck in the back of the net by himself on a line, where if you take him off that line, I think you might get less scoring. But at the same time, I think maybe once or twice a period, you got to find a way to get your 3 best players on the ice in an offensive situation.
Yeah. Just throw it on the fly or double shift Barzal or something, because I agree with you. I think if Oliver Wahlstrom was completely healthy, I think that could be different because they could put him into the lineup. I think he's got a great shot, and I think looks like a kid that's going to be really good in the NHL. But the back end could help too. Get some shots, like you said, get some greasy goals. Their goal to score in game 3, Clutterbuck basically just whacked Vasilevsky until it got over the line. So anybody else for the Islanders that you look at tonight where they need to have a big game for them to get a win?
I look at their back end.
Yeah.
I look at their back end, and of course their goaltending has to be good. Varlamov has to shut the door. I don't think he can give up more than 3. I think 3 is even pushing it, but 2 gives you a chance. 3 could be questionable, but you can't give up 4. That definitely not on Tampa. I think their defense, Pelech has, maybe just find a way to get 1 from the back end.
Right.
Get 1 goal from your back end tonight. Don't obviously take chances to go out of plays, but if you can get 1 from your back end tonight, I think you can win this game. But this shows the way Barry Trotz coaches and the way the Islanders are playing. To me, they are 1 offensive piece away from winning a Stanley Cup, potentially. I mean, they could still do it this year, but if you can go out this year and find the right piece who plays the game the way the Islanders want to play, I think you could see them being a powerhouse next year.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because it's so tricky. Because Barzal, we've seen him fight it. He's bought in, but you get tired of it. And Palmieri was the perfect ad. He's a Lou, he's a Barry guy. He's just gonna do his thing. He's gonna play his role, and to his credit, he's got 7 goals. And that line of him, Zajac, who I didn't even know could still play. Looking at him in Jersey, I'm like, this guy's cooked. But those 2 in Pajot, the 3 deadline imports of the last couple of years, have been their best line in this series. I mean, they get so many opportunities, and I think they could find a way to win another game in this series. And if they go back to Tampa 2-2, who knows? Because like we said, Montreal, neither of us had them going this deep. I know that for sure. And if you go back 2-2, it's anybody's game.
100%. And one thing about the NHL, and some people don't realize it's so hard to win a cup. Like there's 31 teams. There's going to be another team added next year in Seattle. It is virtually impossible to win a Stanley Cup. So if you can look at the Islanders, they've made it to the Eastern Conference Final the last 2 years. You have to tip your hat to it. Like it's so hard to be consistently good in the NHL. And the goal is, look at Washington, how long it took them. Just give yourselves opportunities is the biggest thing. Put yourself in a position to get through a couple rounds of the playoffs every year. And at some point you may break through, but you may never not break through, but at least you're getting there. I mean, look at the Leafs, right? Like at least the Islanders, they're getting opportunities to play for a Stanley Cup, which a lot of teams don't get that opportunity to do, maybe once or twice a career, but at least the Islanders are consistently giving themselves a chance to play for a cup.
Yeah. In your window, be there, and who knows, they're down 2-1, but maybe an injury happens, or, they just catch fire. Like Montreal, like we beat the dead horse here, but they're beating Vegas 2-1 in the series.
Yeah.
Vegas is a better team than Montreal. It's not that hard to see. But sometimes the better team loses. The Miami Heat in 2011 were better than the Dallas Mavericks. But the Dallas Mavericks won, well, because Dirk Nowitzki's a stud. But a little shout out to him there. But it happens. It's not, were the Boston Bruins better than the St. Louis Blues in 2019? You could argue that they were. But St. Louis won the Stanley Cup. So I completely agree. When you're in your window, you need to capitalize. The LA Kings, the Chicago Blackhawks, the Pittsburgh Penguins, they did that. And you could at least say, for your Rangers, for the Tampa Bay Lightning, then they at least got to Cup Finals. They were there. They gave themselves the chance that you're talking about.
I think that's all you can ask for as a fan of a team. If you're a fan, is consistently give yourself an opportunity to win, and then it may happen. But if you're never giving yourself an opportunity, then you're never going to capitalize. It's hard to capitalize an opportunity when you're not giving yourself the opportunity to begin with. Yeah.
When you're golfing and other guys are playing, you're not winning.
Absolutely. It should be interesting to see who pulls it out. I'm excited for tonight's game, excited for the rest of the playoffs, but it's been a great playoff so far. And I think you have 4 really good, 4 teams that are playing great playoff hockey. So it's going to be interesting to see who wins the cup, but I'm excited to see.
100%. And before we pivot from hockey, your team, the New York Rangers, made an announcement this week hiring Pete Yzone Gerard Gallant, aka Turk, to as their next head coach. 3.5 million a year, which is a pretty good payday for him. So congrats to Coach Gallant, coaching in Columbus back in the day, then going to Florida, Vegas, leading the expansion team to a cup final in their first year. And now he's in the Big Apple. First, Wrighter, as a fan, what'd you make of the hire? And what do you think of Gerard as a coach?
Before we get into that, I just, David Quinn, I liked Quinn as a coach. I did. I didn't think he did a bad job. I wasn't saying fire Quinn or anything like that, but I think it was time for a change with, it was tough year for the Rangers in the division they were in. Obviously there was a lot of shakeup, some turmoil in the front office there this year. We don't need to get into that, but all in all, I am very excited about this hire for the Rangers. PEI native, Atlantic Canadian. I've heard a lot of great things about Gerard Gallant. I haven't got to meet him yet. Both my bosses are very close with him, so I've only heard good things about him. My bosses golf with him every summer, so hopefully be able to maybe get on the course and meet him this summer. But from everyone I've talked to a few players who played for him with the Sea Dogs. Talked to a player who played with him when he coached him in the NHL, and from everyone who says he's a player's coach. Players love basically just playing for him, which is it's not every coach is a player's coach.
No,
not every coach is liked. And it's tough to find a coach who's liked, but also where the players respect enough to bust their ass for. And I was talking to actually a guy who played for the Sea Dogs when they won the Memorial Cup last night. He was actually at our golf tournament yesterday, and he was over at my place last night. And he was saying that Gerard, you just want to play for him. He gives you the leeway to away from the rink, you don't have to be hockey all 24/7. But when you come to the rink, you have to be in the mindset of I'm here to go to work. Right. And players respect the hell out of that. He's not going to be the biggest X's and O's guy, but I don't think the Rangers really need that right now. I think that what the Rangers need is someone who just says, boys, go out and play. He's going to put a system in place. He's going to get the stars to buy in. I think it's big for him to get Zibanejad going all year. Zibanejad can be very inconsistent. If you look at Zibanejad's year, you look at the end of it, and it looked like he had a pretty good year, but a lot of his goal scoring happened when Rangers were basically out of it. So it's going to be key to get him going. It's going to be key to keep Fox going. Fox looks like he could be a breakout star. He had an amazing year on the back end. So if they can find a way to keep him going, I love the hire. I really do. I think the players will love playing for him. I think this year is actually a very, very crucial year for the Rangers. You want to see what you have in Lafreniere. He started to really come on the second half of the year. People probably weren't watching the Rangers as much because they were out of it, but Lafreniere did get going a bit towards the end. Panarin is a star. I just love the way he plays. Strom's really come around as a player. He was kind of a lost cause a few years ago. People were just saying, get him out of the league. And now look what he's doing. The back end needs to improve still. I think the back end's still young. The goaltending has to get better. The goaltending wasn't as good as it should have been last year. So that's definitely something they need to look into. But all in all, I like the way the Rangers are moving. They're moving in the right direction. I think Gerard Gallant is the type of coach who can really take them to the next level. And I think this year is the Rangers have to make the playoffs. For me as a fan, and just looking at as a hockey person, I think this is the year that they can really take a step forward. I think they're going to have more opportunities with the divisions moving back to the way they normally are. I think it opens up. In saying that, Florida, Tampa, they've all been really good too, but I really think this is a big year for the Rangers. And I think Gerard Gallant's the right guy to be leading the ship.
Yeah, I agree. Good hire. And the guys available, I would have hired him or Rick Tocchet. I don't think you can go wrong. Tocchet, I think for what he did in Arizona with that disaster with the ownership and everything, he's a good coach. But Gallant's been to a cup final. He knows what he's doing. I agree, he's a player's coach. I look at a guy like Chris Kreider. I think he's going to be huge with Gerard Gallant because Kreider's a really good player, but like Zibanejad, he's a little inconsistent. there's 10 games where it looks like he's the best player in the world. And there's 4 or 5 where you don't even notice he's on the ice. Finding that consistency, he did that with Max Pacioretty. I think he really helped Pacioretty's career, and Pacioretty's taken off since working with Gerard. But when it comes to the offseason, there's always rumors. Mm-hmm. And the Rangers, now that they're looking, I agree with you. I think next year is a huge year, make the playoffs. The goal shouldn't be win a cup, James Dolan, but, make the playoffs. Jack Eichel, he's been rumored to the Rangers forever. Now, he may need surgery on his neck. Who the hell knows? I know he wants to get out of Buffalo. As a Rangers fan, do you want Jack Eichel to be a Ranger, or are you apprehensive with him coming into your lineup?
I mean, I'm torn, and here's why. If you just said, Matt, would you like to have Jack Eichel on your team? Right. Absolutely. I think any team in the league would love to have Jack Eichel on their team. He's probably a top 15, top 20 player in the league. He's done everything for Buffalo he could do. I think his time definitely in Buffalo has come to an end. I think it would be good for both organizations for both parties, for Eichel and for the organization, if they parted ways.
Yeah.
But what are you giving up is the question. What are you giving up? Are you giving up? I think you can afford to give up a first round pick right now, for sure. 100%. You've done very well in the draft. You've got very lucky in the fact that you've got the first and second overall pick, 2 of the last 3 years. You can afford to give up a couple picks. They do have a lot in their farm system. So, but can you afford to give up 4 pieces? Can you afford to give up a first round pick, maybe another first round pick, maybe a defenseman and a forward? I don't know. I think you don't want to get to a point where there's too many cooks in the kitchen, because Panarin is going to be your best player. So if Eichel is going to come in, it can't be to take over what Panarin is doing. Mm-hmm. It can't be to come in and I'm going to be the number 1 player. Not saying that. I think for Eichel, the best scenario would to be, I look at like a Phil Kessel scenario. I think Eichel is even a little better than Phil Kessel, but you look at Phil Kessel when he was with the Leafs. It was all the pressures on Phil Kessel to get things done. Phil Kessel goes to Pittsburgh and he can be the number 2 or number 3 best player on the team, and they win a couple cups. Right. So for me, if Eichel was to come in, I would love to have Eichel come in, but look at his contract. He's getting paid $10 million. It's a lot of money. The Rangers will have some money coming off the books, not this year, but next year they have a lot of money coming off. If you look at who the Rangers are still paying, Mike Richards is still being paid by the New York Rangers, okay? Or Brad Richards, sorry. Brad Richards is being paid by the New York Rangers right now. They have a lot of dead money, which is coming off the books next year. So I would love to have Eichel. The question is, what do you give up? And does the money work? Because there's a lot of things that go into the NHL, not just, putting together a fantasy team.
Right. Okay, hypothetical. Would you rather have Jack Eichel next year or Dougie Hamilton?
Oh, good. I think I would rather have Jack Eichel, and here's why. I think Dougie Hamilton needs to be on a team for 5 years. Mm-hmm. I think Dougie Hamilton's been moved around quite a bit. Oh, that's such a tough question because the Rangers do need someone on the back end. I think I love Fox, but I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him next year, which 100%. This year there wasn't that pressure. He really was kind of a breakout star where people didn't see him coming. I bet you if you ask a lot of hockey fans, they probably don't even know who Adam Fox is unless they really focused and watched a lot of hockey. But now everyone knows who Adam Fox is.
Right.
So, maybe I'm going to switch. Maybe I am going to go with Dougie Hamilton because the Rangers do need help on the back end. I think they have enough offense. I think Lafreniere is going to become better. Kakko needs to find a way to improve. I think it's a big year for him. So, I started with Eichel, but I am going to switch to Hamilton. And once again, it would depend on the number too. I like Dougie Hamilton at 6.5 to 7.5 a lot more than I do at 9 or 10.
Yeah, I think if you could get him at 7, that would be huge. And he's turned himself into a Norris Trophy type defenseman. With him and Fox, I think I really like Lindgren too.
I do. Yeah,
he's not going to put up a lot of points, but we're mentioning defenseman in playoff time. He's got some bite. I like his game. I also think they need to bring back Colin Blackwell. I mean, what a
Okay.
fun that was. That
Yeah.
kid, getting bounced around and him getting, having the year that he did and going over the worlds and, having continued success. So yeah, I think the Rangers, they have an interesting offseason ahead to see what they want to do and if Jack Eichel is in their long-term plans. But it should be a good year for you. Yeah, it's been, since the letter went out, it's kind of been a painful, kicking the pills kind of few years for the Rangers, but it seems like good things might be ahead for one of the NHL's most storied franchises.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next few months and looking forward as a fan of the Rangers to, see them play next year.
Yeah, no doubt. The U.S. Open, 121st U.S. Open, the past 2 days have been played at Torrey Pines. And if the leaderboard, if this was the leaderboard when somebody said, okay, after Friday, this is going to be leading the tournament, I would have said, yeah, you're drunk. Yeah. But at 5 under, we got Russell Hanley and Richard Bland, the 48-year-old Englishman, then followed by Louis Oosthuizen, which is believable. He's made 14 straight cuts.
He's always in the mix.
Always finished T2 at the PGA. He just puts it on the fairway for old Louis. But and followed by Matthew Wolff at 4 under too. I like Matthew Wolff. I kind of root for him a little bit. I like his wonky swing and what he missed the cut the first 2 majors of the year, but he's found some success here at Torrey Pines. But the interesting one for me, Writer, is at 3 under Jon Rahm. Mm-hmm. Rahm's never won a major, but he always, if you notice in majors, he's always coming back. He starts the tournament 3-4 over. He's got to battle back. He shoots 1 under yesterday, which isn't great, but it's not terrible. He's 2 shots off the lead, and he's Jon Rahm. And he doesn't have to make up so much strokes. Saturday and Sunday, he plays great, but it's really like in garbage time. Mm-hmm. I think this is the best chance he's had in a long time to legitimately win a major. Well, the hungriest person on that golf course before the tournament even started was Jon Rahm. Yeah, with what happened a few weeks ago with the COVID test, and he Memorial win that tournament. And it's 1.5 million that he missed out on a few weeks ago. For Jon Rahm, it's probably not the end of the world. I mean, it's still $1.5 million. Yeah. For anyone, that's a lot of money. But he is so hungry right now, and I regret. I threw some money on 5 or 6 golfers to start the event. Before it started, I regret not putting some money on Jon Rahm. I was between him and DJ. I went with DJ, kind of regretting that a bit now, but Jon Rahm, you're right. He starts bad. You never see Jon Rahm leading the tournament after the first round. Mm-hmm. He always is fighting back, but his Saturdays are always amazing. So Today will be interesting to see what he does. But yeah, the leaderboard there's definitely some interesting names up there. Some that you probably, wouldn't expect to be in the mix, especially the 2 leading the tournament, Henley and Bland, but they've done what they needed to do, especially at the majors. Yeah, you're going to see once in a while someone run away with it. You're going to see Tiger run away, win by 10. You're going to see someone win but for the most part, there's normally a lot of ponies in the mix. And that's why if, from the betting side, if you're betting, it's the majors are always the funnest to bet on because it seems like there's a lot of people in the mix. And you have that this year. There's 20 golfers who could win this event, maybe 100%. More, honestly. Even someone sitting at even par right now is 1 over is still in the mix. You go out and shoot -4 or -5 today. You're right in it. I look at have they announced who's starting? Because I know at even par we have Brooks and Bryson are both at even. I know. Are they on together today or no? No. Oh my God. I know. I can lead you some, and this I read it before we went on. It pisses me off to no end. Okay, you don't want to put them together. That's fine. To start, well, that's not fine. I was mad about it, but they're even par. This is not like this is just organic. You know what I mean? Throw them together. But no, that's what the pairs today. Adam Hadwin, a Canadian, is playing with Brooks. I like it. We love our Canadians, but I don't need to see Adam Hadwin play with Brooks. Mm-hmm. But nevertheless, Justin Thomas, Morikawa, Harris English, Brandon Grace, DeChambeau is playing with Bizenhout, Christian there, the South African. Matt Hughes, Kevin Streelman, your boy. Jon Rahm, Bubba, Wolff, Oosthuizen, Hanley, Bland. But the fact that they're both at even par and DeChambeau and Koepka are not playing together today is just a joke from the USGA. A few years ago they got in crap because they threw all the the fattest guys on tour together, and it got picked up right away that the three heavier guys were playing together, and they even joked about it. And they don't have the stones to put it's not even the stones. They're both at even par. They should be playing together today.
That's the thing. I can understand why no, I can't understand at the start, because I would have loved to see them together going in with the amount of traction they've made. Whether you like the feud or hate the feud, they're bringing attention to the game of golf.
Yep.
So as a golf fan, you have to like the fact that, golf's becoming, people are talking about golf who have never talked about golf before. So the fact they didn't put them together, I think, was a mistake. But right now, organically, you have them both at even par. That is what you want. They've talked about, if you're not going to put them together to start an event, let it happen in a tournament where they are at even par. They're both still in the mix too.
Yeah.
And this was the fact that they're not putting them together today is a very big missed opportunity by golf.
100%. And JT Morikawa, that's great. I mean, that's a great pairing, but throw Brooks and Bryson right in front of them. That's two great groups that you can follow all day that you're going to be invested in. And, like I said, we love Adam Hadwin, but he doesn't sell as well. I think we can both agree on that. But nevertheless, they're not going with that group, and it's frustrating. But we see four guys at even par: Bryson, Brooks, Morikawa, Justin Thomas. Those guys are all have won majors before. Morikawa shot 4 under yesterday. He really, saved his tournament and found his game.
Yeah.
Out of the four there, who do you give the best chance to win this tournament outright?
Oh, that's tough. You really could honestly pick any of the four of them. I think it's tough to go low back-to-back days.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look at Brooks, and the reason why is he just loves he loves the US Open. He's won it twice. He seems to always be in the mix. I think, but he is coming off a bit of an injury. Tom, I don't know. It's tough because, like you said, any one of the four of them can go low today.
Mm-hmm.
One of them's going to have to go low because there's too many players ahead of them where not everyone ahead of them is going to shoot even par or +1. Like someone in that group, hopefully Wolf. No, we can talk about that later. Is going to go low today, but someone's going to go low. So I'm going to go with Brooks, but any one of the four of them, I think Bryson just can't seem to find it really. His irons game seems to be making too many mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
He seems to be kind of putting himself in too many bunkers and just offsides the greens, not giving himself great looks at birdie. I'm going to go with Brooks to maybe make a run, but I have a couple ponies that are ahead of them that kind of hoping that they take off today.
Okay. Who do you got above them that you're looking at?
So right now I got Wolf at 202 to 1 on a $2 bet.
Mm-hmm.
I have him paying 201 to 1, so $402 payout on a $2 bet.
Wow.
When it comes to the majors, I like looking at taking 5 or 6 golfers. I take $20 and 5 or 6 golfers, throw $2 or $3 on each golfer. I threw $5 on DJ because the odds are a little lower, try and bump it up a bit. But I like taking some underdogs. And I looked at Wolf, and Wolf's a great golfer. He's had some struggles lately. He's kind of talked about them to the media. He's kind of been battling some demons. But the guy, this course fits Wolf very well.
Yeah.
And I looked at him at 201 to 1, and I said, you know what, I'll throw $2 on him. So I kind of have my eye on him. The other golfer I have in the mix right now is Bubba Watson. I have Bubba Watson at -3. And I have him at 126 to 1 on a $2 bet. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, as a gambler, when you get to a Saturday or Sunday and you have a couple ponies in the mix, that's really all you can ask for. Couple horses. And, Bubba, if he can hit the fairways, he's gonna give himself an opportunity. Bubba's got really every shot in his bag. For Bubba, it's more of being consistent. Like Bubba could go out today and go +5. So, but Wolf went low yesterday, kind of scares me. Like I said, it's tough in majors to go back-to-back low scores. So today's going to be a big day for Wolf. But like you said, it'd be scary for those guys. Behind them, you have some of those big dogs who, at even par, which are not out of it. 5 shots is nothing in the game of golf with 36 holes to play. You look at the two leaders, it's for them, that would be stressful. I mean, any tournament's stressful, but you look at who's behind you and look at, it's not like they're leading both of them by 4 shots. They're only 1 shot lead on players. There's so much golf left to be played. And that's why I'm looking forward to this evening, honestly, just putting my feet up and watching some golf tonight and some hockey, of course. It's going to be a great sports night, but this is really anyone's game still. Like I said, there's probably 20, 25 golfers who could still win this event.
Yeah. And you got 400 there with Louis. He shot even yesterday. Yeah. He didn't lose the tournament, but he didn't gain anything. He's a sneaky one today. If he could have a good round, because he just goes even par. He's always in the mix. Like you look at him, you're like, how? But he just puts it on the fairway, and he's got his second, tee to green. He's a strong player, but he's always in the mix. Rory's at 1 over, who knows? Then there's Canadian Mac Hughes. He's 2 under. He shot 4 under yesterday. Again, that kind of scares me too, that he had such a good round yesterday, but good to see him. He's kind of had a tough year after making the FedEx Cup final last year. He's had a tough start to 2021, but good to see him get back in the mix at a major.
Absolutely. And the one thing about being in the mix at a major is, first of all, it gives you the opportunity to play a lot bigger tournaments, down the road the rest of the year. But the other thing too is you make a ton of money.
Yeah.
And in the majors, especially for some of these guys, like you look at the 2 leaders, obviously it'd be great to win, but if they could even have top 5 finishes, they're walking away with probably more money than they've ever won before. So if you can get in the mix at a major, you're going to walk away with a lot of coin. But it's great that there's so many guys in the mix, because it's going to make for an exciting round today. I think today's round is going to be the staple of the event, where you're going to see probably a few guys pull away and a few people take steps back. But the best thing about golf is it's 4 rounds where anything can happen, and 1 hole can really maybe not make you, but it can definitely break you, especially in the US Open. You look at Rafael Cabrera-Bello yesterday. Oof. He's at -4 and he was chugging along. He looked great. Next thing you know, I think he finished at +2 at the end of the day. A couple chunks in 1 hole, like that rough, the USGA loves pumping it up every year and talking about how the rough's the deepest rough they've ever seen. But, it might not be the deepest they've ever seen, but it is tough when you get into it. So if you can keep the ball in the fairway, you give yourself opportunities. But if you're putting it in the rough, you're going to have some trouble out there.
Yeah. Before we pivot to football, do you have a pick for the weekend? Who's your pick to take home the 121st US Open?
Oh, well, I am going to pick Henley, and here's why.
Wow.
Whenever I pick on one of my guys, they end up blowing it. So I'm going to say Henley, and fingers crossed it ain't him.
Yeah.
But I really do like the way Wolf's playing. I'm if Wolf can pull it out, then maybe I can, vouch for one of these 200 to 1s I always throw on that never hit. So I like the way he's playing, but like we said, I think you can look at Jon Rahm at -3, and he's going to be there at the end of it. He's going to be probably top 2, top 3, the way he's playing. As someone who watches golf, I think I'm going to say Rahm, but there's a lot of guys playing and anything can happen.
Yeah, I agreed with you. I'm going to say Rahm too, but with little to no confidence in that selection, just because, like you said, anything can happen, but he's too good of a player not to win one.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen eventually for him. And I think it'd be a great story after being pulled from Memorial, losing out on that money, having no practice time. He came out of quarantine, I believe, Tuesday. If he could win this tournament, be a big FU to the PGA Tour, and I like to see that from players. So we'll see. But I agree. Tonight it's going to be couch, golf, hockey, the works. Game 7 in the NBA. I mean, it doesn't get much better than a Saturday night with that kind of material on the docket. College football. And obviously it's a couple months away, but it'll be here before we know it. They're talking about expanding the playoff. Right now it's 4. We've had our problems with it, Ohio State and just the blue bloods being the only ones to get in every year. It gets a little monotonous, but we're hearing potentially an 8-team playoff or even a 12-team playoff in maybe not this year, but in 2022, 2023. What do you make of the change, and do you like it for college football?
I love it. I love the 8 team. I love 8. Maybe not 12.
Yeah.
You don't want to go too crazy because it wasn't too long ago there was only 2.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't want to you don't want to overwater it where now everyone's getting in. But I love 8. 4, the problem with 4 is there's just too much big money in college football in the NCAA. And what I mean by big money is they know they have to get certain teams in if they're close, that you have to take the Ohio State over the Coastal Carolina or the Cincinnati. You have to take I love Notre Dame, but you have to take the Notre Dame over a Coastal Carolina or a UFC or UCF, sorry. But I think there's been too many examples over the last 3 or 4 years of good teams that have had really good years of not getting in. Yeah. I know that if you do move to 8 teams, we've already lost the luster of the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl doesn't mean as much as it used to. The big 4 bowls, it used to be the big 4 bowls. They don't really mean as much as they used to, but I'm okay with that. I would love to see a team like Cincinnati get in. I think, they deserve to get in last year. I think you look at a team like UCF a few years ago. I think there's been too many examples over the last 3 or 4 years of teams having really successful years and not being rewarded for it, kind of being punished for having a good year. And when you talk about sports, what you want to do in sports is you want to reward a team for having a good season. Like, you don't want to say, hey, congratulations, you had a good season. Here's the, I don't know, the old Milwaukee Farms Bowl in somewhere, like just some bowl. Exactly. You got to reward teams for having a good year. I love the idea of going to 8. I think 8, I don't think you want to push it because football you get beat up in football. It's tough you can't play a hockey season like a football season. You can't play 30 games in a college football season. And there's only so much time to get it into because they want to transfer. They don't want it to go too long because basketball becomes very big and they don't want to drag it into getting into the March Madness hype because after Christmas, as soon as the NCAA ends for college football, they really start pushing March Madness. And I don't think they want to lose that pushing of the March Madness. But I love 8 because it gives teams the opportunity to get in, and it gives the people who want to get the Ohio States and the Michigan or the Notre Dame or whoever it may be, you can throw them in at 8 and no one's going to complain. If they go 10-2, if they go 9-2 or 10-1 or, throw them in at the 8 spot. No one's going to say anything. But when you're throwing them in at the 4 spot and you get a team that went 11-0, that's where you get people complaining. What are your thoughts? Like, I love 8.
I agree. I love 8. 12's too much. The 1 versus 12 game will be a blowout. And, there's enough blowouts in college football. You don't need to see that. But I love 8 because you're still going to get you'll still get your Ohio State for all the people that need that. You'll still get Alabama, Oklahoma, Clemson, the normal names. Like I said, every year there's a Cincinnati. UCF a few years ago, they said we're the national champions. Mm-hmm. To their credit, they never got the opportunities. I don't mind them saying that because guess what? We went undefeated. Yeah, suck it. We won. I think every year in the 8, there needs to be a non-Power 4 conference team. And whether it could be UCF, it could be Coastal Carolina. Every year it's going to be somebody different. But I want to see that even if that team's the 8 seed, I want to see them in there because
every year there's going to be a team justified for it too. Right. Every year in a non-Power 5 or non-Power 5 conference, there's a team that goes 10-1. Mm-hmm. So every year you can justify putting a team like that in the 7 or 8 spot.
100%. And I think that should be every year. I think that should be voted. Like that should be grandfathered in. Not plug in Michigan who are 9-3, say no. It's going to be Coastal Carolina who are 10-1 or undefeated at that point. Not just because it's a blue blood, you got to throw Michigan in there. We don't need to see Michigan get blown out. They do that enough to themselves. But
which I love to see.
I know you love to see, and I'm sure a lot of teams would love that matchup. I'd rather play Michigan some years than Coastal Carolina or UCF or Cincinnati last year. But I like the 8, and if it eliminates some of the bowl games, Well, you can throw the 1 versus 8 playoff game. You can make that whatever damn bowl you want. It can be the Lay's ketchup chip bowl or whatever it is. You can still make your sponsorship money off that game. Every year it's the Rose Bowl and the orange. Well, just insert a different name, a different sponsor into this game, and nobody's the wiser. It doesn't matter. So eliminating bowl games for playoff games, I don't see who anybody will complain with that.
100%. And I think you could push it back a week, college, the final, and make Christmas Day or New Year or Christmas Eve, or make that weekend, whatever that weekend is, make that your 1 versus 8, your 2 versus 7. Make that first week a big week, because in that sport right now, Christmas Eve, I watched some boring game between a 5 and 6 against a 6 and 5. I don't even know what the bowl game was. There was not, I mean, don't get me wrong. You don't want to take players away from Christmas Eve and Christmas, but at the same time, you can, I as a player, I'd sacrifice seeing Santa to get on the field and play a 1 versus 8 game. Is it on that 8 seed? I would love to see them take Christmas Eve / Christmas Day. Maybe not Christmas Day. Maybe make it Christmas Eve. Maybe make it Christmas Eve, 4 games all day.
I'm locked in for that.
I love it because there's nothing. Well, Christmas Eve is the most boring sports day in the world.
I know. And I hate it.
You do your you do your family thing. You do the Christmas. It comes to 8 o'clock at night. What are you gonna watch?
Mm-hmm.
And especially as a mother or father, the kids aren't sleeping anyway. They're excited for Santa. Might as well, if dad's gonna put presents under the tree or wait for Santa, you might as well have a bowl game on at 10 o'clock to watch. A big, important 1 versus 8 or 2 versus 7 game.
I 100% agree. And yeah, who doesn't love little Santa Claus and Christmas? But throw in a game at 4. Christmas dinner, throw that little TV on in the corner, and you can still talk to your relatives and love them and care. But you also got some ambiance. You got a game. There's NBA on every Christmas day. There's NFL is gonna be throwing a game on every year now. I think there's 2 this year on the schedule. These days, these are prime days because people love their family. But what do people do on Thanksgiving, Wrighter? They watch football, Christmas Eve, and these kids aren't going home anyway because they play on New Year's Day. So they're not going home to their family on Christmas because they play in 4 days. So playing a game on Christmas Eve just makes too much sense. And I think it will happen the next few years.
I would love to see it happen. And the other thing too, one thing I find I love college football. The one thing I find about it, the season comes to an end and I find there's too much, basically nothing going on for a couple weeks before you get to the 1 versus 4 matchup. You're watching, yes, you can have some, I don't want to call them meaningless bowl games, but you can have some bowl games for some teams that, your 8 and 4s, those teams. But I find you finish the season early December and you don't get to your 1 versus 4 matchup until almost January.
I know.
So that Christmas Eve day, right in there, in that area, that's your honey hole. If you can have those 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4. I think you take 1, 2 or 2 days where you blow it up. Maybe it's the 23rd, 24th, where you do 2 games on the 23rd, 2 on the 24th. Then you move into your New Year's, where you're having your your semifinal, and then you can have your final the week later. I think it makes, like we're saying, it makes way too much sense.
Yeah, no, I'm all about that because Christmas Eve is such a slog for sports because you go home at night, even after you have your meal, whatever, family, and all that's on for sports channels is year in review, and you can only watch that so many damn times, and then you're like, well, what am I going to do for the next 3 to 4 hours before I go to bed? And having Alabama, Coastal Carolina, I'm tuning in. I'm watching every snap. And you got those days, maybe it's Boxing Day, but I think take advantage. The NFL is seeing that the NBA had Christmas forever. Now the NFL goes, we're the superpower here, not you. You guys are pigeons. And if we want to crush you, we can. And like I said, I think they got 2 games this year on the schedule already. And it just, college football is the second most popular. You could argue it's the most popular sport in America. The NFL and college football are right there. the NBA probably scares them to death that college football could even leak into Christmas. But who knows what's going to happen here in the next couple of years.
Exactly. Well, you say, like, look at Christmas Eve. What does every sports fan say on Christmas Eve? I say it every year. My God, there's nothing on TV tonight. Like, what am I supposed to do? I got to get up in the morning and celebrate Christmas dinner with the family. Don't get me wrong, looking forward to spending time on Christmas with the family.
Yeah, of course.
But every Christmas Eve, I get home from my grandmother's. We do our get together, and I get home and I'm looking at the TV and I'm like, well, I watched the year in review. I know, as a sports fan, you already know what's going on. Year in review. You don't need the year in review. You already know what happened. But I ended up watching reruns of How I Met Your Mother Christmas Eve this year. It's like, give me a football game to watch or something. I think it's going to be, it's like we said, it's going to be something where I think it happens in the next couple of years, especially if they move to 8 teams, which I believe they're going to, because there's too much money in 8 teams not to do it on 2.
Yeah, eventually money talks, and even the big programs, if Nick Saban might not like it, too bad. You'll still win a national championship if you're that good. You'll beat whoever you're playing. But yeah, I saw your tweet that you're rewatching 2.5 Men. I'm a big 2.5 Men fan as well. I'm wondering, is it Charlie Sheen 2.5 Men? I'm hoping, and not Ashton Kutcher 2.5 Men.
For me, growing up, it was 2.5 Men at 8:30 with my dad and my mom, and actually my sister too. It was a kind of a family thing where we throw Thursday nights to throw on 2.5 Men, and I just loved the show growing up. I just loved the concept. Honestly, I found it so funny. I found it, some of the humor now is probably a little dated, where you can't, some of the jokes didn't kind of, you can't really see the light of day, which I understand and I accept, but some of the humor in there is great humor that would be, in today's society, great humor. I love Charlie Sheen as the actor. The person aside, I thought in that show, he was the best actor in TV at the time. I just actually finished season 8 where Charlie finishes off. And when Jake got a little older, my God, it was just so funny. It's the concept of a rich guy having his brother leech off him. And oh man, Alan Harper, just I couldn't imagine having an Alan Harper. It's just great comedy. And I recommend anyone who's never seen it to go back and watch those first 8 seasons. Like I said, I'm into season 9 now. It's just not the same. The humor's still okay, but Ashton Kutcher did what he could, but there's no replacing how good that show was or how big it was at the time. And it's one of the best shows I've ever watched, and I haven't rewatched it since it finished. Right. So it's been nice. The rinks have been closed in Fredericton the last couple of weeks, so I was able to kind of mix in a little bit more TV than being at the rink. And it's nice to kind of catch up on a show that really brought me a lot of great memories growing up watching it with my family.
Yeah, no, I was a huge fan as well. I got multiple DVDs at home of the seasons, and I love that show. With the stalker and, like you said, Alan, and Berta's really funny as well. Her humor really gets to me, resonates with me. But this was great this morning, Wrighter. I know you had the golf yesterday. You had a big day, so I really appreciate you taking the time talking to me, and it's always a pleasure chalking up with you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. Love talking a little bit of sports, and I'm sure we'll probably be a text or two back and forth this weekend about everything going on. I think today's going to be a great day. It looks a little rainy out. I was supposed to go boating. I think we're going to push that to Father's Day tomorrow. Celebrate Father's Day with my dad, Richie, and actually my mom's birthday yesterday. So we're going to do a family thing tomorrow, but looking forward to hitting the couch today and watching a lot of sports. It's going to be a great weekend. And just want to say thanks again for having me on.
No, thanks for joining me. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, and to my dad. Happy Father's Day, and enjoy the golf, enjoy the hockey, and we'll talk soon.